koutou katoa. Good afternoon, everyone. No mai, haere mai, piki mai, kaki mai. Can I welcome our visitors today? Lovely to have Angela with us and have our community back into the chamber. This makes us feel very, very happy. Welcome, Jeanette and the team with the petition. Look forward to hearing from you, and welcome to all of our staff and Lucinda and Emma from the Business Association. Great to have you with us. This is going to be a fabulous council meeting. So thank you, everyone. It's just lovely to be together again back in the chamber. It's been a few very hard months as we've navigated our community and ourselves and everybody through COVID response. So I'd like to invite Angela now to open our meeting with a karakia. We have one councillor today, Councillor Travis. Oh, come up here, Angela. We'd love you up here, who is coming into the meeting via Zoom. Angela has helped us in the past with our interfaith church. When we had our gatherings at Blossom Time, we had a special service with about 7 or 8 churches coming together to do our interfaith celebrations at Blossom. So it's lovely to have you here, Angela. Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be here today to discuss the needs of our area and our city. We are grateful for the beautiful land that we live in, for the fertile soils. We're grateful for the beautiful ocean. We're grateful for the beautiful mountains. We're grateful, Heavenly Father, at this time for those who have taken leadership in this area. We're grateful for the responsibilities they take on behalf of the citizens. We ask at this time, Heavenly Father, that they'll bless those who are less fortunate than ourselves, those who might be looking for homes or looking for love. We ask at this time that thy Holy Ghost can be here upon those who are here to make the correct decisions needed for our community and the citizens here. We say these things in gratitude in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Angela. That's lovely. Thank you. Tato, tato, Lovely to have our very uplifting Tūtira Mai Ngā Iwi of us all coming together. We just now move on to apologies and leave of absence. We have no apologies today, but we have leave of absence requests from Councillor Ollie, Councillor Watkins and Councillor Sears, starting with Councillor Ollie.
Yes, Your Worship, leave of absence from the 14th of May to the 24th, please.
Thank you. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. Leave of absence, please, from the 19th to the 24th of May, both days inclusive.
Councillor Sears.
Kia ora, Your Worship. Leave of absence 26th of May to the 30th of May inclusive. Thank you.
Yes. Councillor Travis. Sorry, you're on mute. Councillor Travis. Thank you. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship. Getting well in advance. Leave of absence, please, for the 12th and the 13th of September.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Councillor Barber.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Leave of absence 28th of July till the 3rd of August.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to move from the chair that that leave of absence be accepted. Second by Councillor Dixon. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that is carried. Now we just move into conflicts of interest, and if we could address them as we come to them along the agenda. Now we've had some minutes previously circulated from the 31st of March, council meeting. Can I have a mover for those minutes, please? Councillor Watkins, second Councillor Barber. Any amendments, alterations? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Mayor's report. Amazing what comes out of COVID. Very positive things. Another way of communicating what the Mayor does every day. So, anyone got any questions about this report and all the beautiful, colourful pictures of all the things that we've been doing over the month? Happy to move my report. I have a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Sears. No further comments or any questions? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Right, so our first item today is item 6, and it's to receive the petition seeking free parking in the Hastings CBD for 1 month. And I'd like to invite the lead petitioner, Jeanette Kaplan, to present the petition. Welcome, Jeanette. Don't be nervous, we're all pretty nice up here. Come on up. Jeanette presented to the Business Association and members and councillors on Tuesday night, and officers, and it was great to hear from her about the petition then, and we look forward to what she has to tell us today. She's also invited me to come and sell a few shoes at Hollands, so that'll be fun. Yes, I get a copy only if I sold some. Thank you. Okay. Bit nervous, sorry. Okay. Mayor Hazelhurst, councillors. I'm Jeanette Kaplan, and I'm the manager of Holland Fashion Shoes, Huratonga Street, Hastings. Right. On behalf of the CBD retailers, I would like to present to council the petition regarding free parking. The reason for this presentation is the loss of the foot traffic in the CBD during the past months of COVID. Many of the professional businesses now have staff working from home, and we all know how easy it is now to buy online. Those shoppers, as with many of the public watching their dollars, are now nowhere to be seen. So we need to entice them all to come back to the shops. As mentioned on Tuesday's meeting, will coloured balls and pieces of art encourage them back? We hear from the council marketing team how keen they are to encourage visitors and travel firms to visit, and hopefully we could look at the public in our own area. To quote Angus from Thompson Suits, when the past parking trial had been run, he had many customers from Taradale and out-of-towners saying what a great idea the free parking in Hastings was, and we were more than happy to come in and shop. What is lost in parking income could be more than made up by putting Hastings City in the headlines, the city that wants to make a vibrant, safe, pleasant, and visit our CBD to shop and dine. The figure of 51,000
as in the month's parking, would be lost and possibly less once parking monitors, sorry, a bit shaky, parking monitors maintenance was deducted. Surely if the free parking was offered, the City Assist team could help monitor those while on their city beat. May I make the point that the big box shops have the plus of being surrounded by free parking area. A CBD with lots of foot traffic and shoppers make for a successful smaller businesses, and surely this makes for a successful city that these businesses then want to be part of. So may I present this petition with the closing point. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Long live Hastings CBD. As we don't want to be a ghost town, I love my job, and empty shops with big box areas being our only shopping, please give a trial of free parking, and may I add, the longer the better. Mayor Hazelhurst, councillors, on behalf of all the CBD retailers, I'd like to thank you for your time for presenting this petition. Sorry, I got emotional.
Can we just acknowledge the passion of one of our CBD team leaders and anyone who knows Holland's fashion, and Jeanette, you will know that you never leave there without 2 or 3 pairs of shoes in a box. So she's pretty awesome and an awesome member of our city, and thank you for your efforts in gathering up that petition of 1,600 names. Can I also acknowledge the pressures, the stress, the challenges of our business community in our city post-COVID, and there's no question about that it is hard. And people are feeling under enormous pressure. They are tired, and they're trying to manage paying their rents, keeping their businesses operating. So I thank you for your hard work. Now, councillors, if we could turn to the recommendation about receiving this petition, and the decision will be made in the next item on the COVID recovery response. Councillor Sholem?
Very happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Second, Councillor Redstone.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just have 2 quick questions. I don't know if they can be answered now. One is, when is it proposed to have the free parking month? And secondly, gosh, I can't read my writing. What promotion activities will be used to stimulate the demand if we go ahead with it?
So we're dealing with that in the next item, item 6. But as the petition states, it's the month of July.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. The next item is to look at the action plan for the recovery of COVID. And while this isn't going to be quick and overnight, it is going to be a long and enduring. But can I just make a few opening comments? What we heard from our members of our CBD the other night was about safety and security. And I would like our councillors today and our Chief Executive and officers to think about incorporating the safety and security into what this COVID response looks like. So it's about bringing people back into town. It's about making sure that people feel safe when they come to town, to make sure they have an experience when they come to town, and that they remember that experience and want to come back time and time again. And that doesn't just take council, that takes the business association, it takes every member who is a member in our city who comes to work every day in our city. So we all have a partnership role with everybody to ensure that we create that experience, bring people back, and have the opportunity to bring them back. And I see that we do have opportunities to work with our partners, the Business Association, to look at, if there was free parking for the month of July, how else we could create some fun, create some promotions, and just have a good time for our people to experience while they're in the city. So I'll take now questions, and then we'll go into debate. I'll just invite the Chief Executive to.
Yeah, just a
few
couple
words.
of opening comments, Your Worship. Good afternoon, councillors. Yeah, obviously this proposal's been brought together for a couple of reasons. One, it's been a heck of a tough time for our community and our CBD over the last few months as we've gone through Omicron. So this was both about how do we basically uplift our community and get our community reconnected, but in a CBD context where this council's had a vision and there's been a lot of investment from council and private businesses in the vibrancy of the Hastings CBD over the last decade. And we know that over the last few months in particular, it's been our CBD areas, particularly our retail, our hospitality and our events that have been most impacted. So the proposals that are in front of you today is designed to uplift our community and support those sectors in our CBD. As you know, I just want to cover off that we've worked hard to develop this package that doesn't have any additional rating impacts, that we're looking to repurpose existing sort of budgets, and that we also consider that there are opportunities to also bring in other support from sponsors and other revenue sources outside of council, but just wanted to cover off up front that these investments, notwithstanding the debate you will have around the petition that's just been presented on parking, is able to be accommodated within the existing council budgets and not additional cost in terms of an impact to our ratepayers. So those are my opening comments, Your Worship.
Thank you, Nigel. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. A question to you, if I may. Would it be appropriate that we add an additional recommendation H? That Council direct the Chief Executive to increase further the CBD safety and security activities and to fund from existing budgets and to report back to Great Communities Committee. I've run that past the appropriate staff.
I'm comfortable with definitely a recommendation on additional safety and security, but I wouldn't like to think that we needed to bring back a decision through a committee.
My apologies, I could be more clear. It's report back post, after.
Oh, thank you.
Report back.
If I can through your
Do I have a seconder?
Very happy to second. And,
Thank you, Councillor
sorry,
Sholem.
and absolutely endorse what Councillor Kerr's just said.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem.
Yeah, very happy with that direction. Clearly, the feedback that we've had both on Tuesday night in terms of engaging with the members of the Business Association, plus also the feedback was support for things that are going to improve vibrancy. Two key themes: parking and on safety and security. And I think that there are absolutely opportunities that are consistent where, notwithstanding we have 376 CCTVs, already we know that there are gaps in the coverage and opportunities to strengthen the City Assist offering, and happy to take that direction and report back on that within the existing budgets that we have.
Thank you, Nigel. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. My question is related to the professional services community and what involvement have they had in being consulted with the plan. From my take, on Tuesday evening, it was quite significantly weighted retail. Yet I think Naomi provided a presentation which said 60 to 70% of the actual CBD is made up of professional services. There was a number, there was a pie graph that was put up. Oh, Lucinda, thank you. So that was quite an interesting point. So just be keen to understand, and maybe it's actually directed at the Business Association, to what buy-in or what feedback you've had from professional services.
Lucinda, would you like to come up here? Would you like to come up and answer those couple of questions? I know, I'm sorry, we didn't know that we had questions here, but it's while you're here, it'd be great if you answered them.
Hi there. Thank you, Damon, for catching me unawares. Councillor Harvey, sorry. Just to clarify, it's 37% of our database is professional services, and there were actually a number of them at the evening. But in terms of ongoing interaction and engagement, by all means, they get our weekly emails, which there is quite a high uptake of, and we obviously hold significant events through the course of the year, predominantly for those professional services contacts, so bringing in speakers, John Key, Raylene Castle, etc. And in terms of any ongoing walking the streets, interacting with our business members as we do, we certainly visit professional services customers as well.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Lucinda. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question to start things off. I'm aware that with the proposed activities as part of this recovery plan, that there's a number of costs that are associated with resources that council would buy. And I'm just wondering if officers can please, for the benefit of our community and councillors here, explain how those new resources could be leveraged and managed. So one of the resources is a projection mapping system. So just keen to get some feedback from officers on how that might be leveraged to greater community good and how it will be managed in terms of maximising it.
I will do my I'll do my best to answer that on behalf of our city activations team who put forward the proposal. So the equipment that we're looking at investing in is something where we have looked to use. We've used it just recently on the Anzac Day. So that costs around, there's quite a substantial cost daily hireage for the equipment. So the idea behind that compared to another asset we were considering was that it would actually pay for itself in just a number of uses. The other option we looked at is actually because there's not many of these systems and of the quality that we'd be looking at in the provinces, the opportunity for making that equipment available to hire for other organisations, either within Hawke's Bay or surrounding areas. We have done some initial discussions to talk to a local provider who we would have a management agreement with where they would hold the equipment and maintain it and would also help us administer a lease situation in return for a commission so that the equipment was basically generating an income which we could then contribute forward to future projection mapping, creative development. So that was sort of the considerations around pushing that piece of equipment forward.
A follow-up, if I may, Ms.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. That's excellent to understand. I think the other thing I'm keen to understand as well is the wide array of events and activations that we've proposed within this recovery plan. They're varied, they're huge, they're over a big period, and I'm very aware that at the moment, council, like so many other organisations, is suffering from a little bit of under-resourcing in some areas of council due to people moving around roles as they are at the moment. I'm just conscious of understanding how and whether or not council has the internal capacity or if there's an external plan to make absolute maximum use of these event opportunities.
Certainly, and that is something that we have put into consideration. One of the elements is that we don't do event delivery at council. Our role is to facilitate events to happen and to work with the regulatory elements of council that are required to support safe events for our community. In the proposal, the main activities have come to us as proposals by current event organisers. And so we see the benefit of that as twofold. As one, we don't have the resource inside of council to deliver these events. So actually to deliver a scaled down version would be higher workloads on our staff moving into an area we currently don't focus on. The other factor of that is that one of the areas that we know has suffered through COVID is the arts and culture sector, and that includes these contractors and the supporting industry, equipment hire and the like. that have had a very quiet couple of years. So in fact, we're stimulating that sector by enabling them to go on and deliver that. Our focus, we're working in partnership with the event managers and promoters and with Hawke's Bay Tourism and the Business Association to oversee the delivery, just to make sure it's on point in terms of our vision of what we would like to see for Hastings and our community, but also just to make sure the added value is there at the higher level for the district and Hawke's Bay.
Thank you. And Mayor Sandra, may I ask one last question? I promise it will be my last. Thank you, Your Worship. So my final question is regarding the free parking proposal, the petition that we've received, because the free parking proposal is part of what we are debating today. I'm just interested to know if there are certain events or opportunities that are wrapped around the period that the free parking is being requested for, or whether or not we can shuffle things around to maximise that for the community, should council be of a mind to fund that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Through Your Worship, just in answering that question, we've already had some discussions with the Business Association around how we can maximise the benefit of the free parking period, so around activations and promotions in that time. So should council move to have free parking in July as been requested, then we'll certainly put into action some plans around how we can really maximise that period.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barber?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just some questions around the budget. I mean, this is unbudgeted spend. You know, and there is, after you start switching things up, internal budgets and contingency, you know, there's still a shortfall. There's a line there, TBC external funding. I'm interested in that because it's the first year that Matariki will be a public holiday, and whether or not we can tap into some of the arts funding that's available, you know, to support Matariki celebrations. I'm just a bit worried about the budget, and so if you can give us some assurances around how we're going to manage that, that'll be good.
Through you, Your Worship, and Councillor Barber, yes, as the Chief Executive who's telling you that I can manage this within budgets and secure funding, I'm equally, you know, focused on that. I think that the clearly the cost that we will incur in this financial year, we've repurposed some existing budget, and we're saying any shortfall up to the maximum that we would spend, we would use contingency reserve. The costs next year, we are confident. We've already had conversations with a person that's very good at working funding, including commercial opportunities, and we think that there are a range of really big opportunities in terms of the events that we're talking about to tap into other funding support, including corporate sponsors, and that's the you know, that's the recommendation that I've kind of happy to make as Chief Executive, that we're confident that we can secure additional funding and if need be, you know, repurpose from within existing budget.
Thank you. Councillor Lawson?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to everybody who prepared this paper and everyone involved. Just a couple of things. You know, the meeting on Tuesday of Hawke's Bay businesses, you know, it came through loud and clear that safety and parking were major issues, and so I'm very supportive of the inclusion of H in the recommendations. But I just have a couple of questions. So in terms of the parking strategy, when is that due to come back to council?
Thank you. I'll ask Mr. O'Shaughnessy.
The strategy is proposed to come back at the end of October, but we've also got a briefing coming up because there's a few things, obviously, that we need to brief council on with the surveys and things that will be coming up. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. My second question is regarding the projection mapping system. You know, it's going to wash its face, and Councillor Shopham asked a question regarding that. But I'm just interested to know that in option 1, there is an amount of 130,000 for the mapping system and 40,000 for the mapping content, and then in option 2, without the projection mapping system, the projection mapping content is still 40,000. I'm just wondering, is there also a part that should be included in there in terms of the, being able to actually project it?
Through you, Chair. Gold star for spotting the mistake. Yes, actually there would be an additional higher fee without that. The 40,000 is an estimate based on the using an existing Christmas scene and then augmenting it to work with our built-in facades. And so yes, there would then be the daily hire fee, and that's variable based on how long we wish to run the projection for.
Can you give an estimate of sort of what that cost might be?
Given the Christmas period and it being a sort of highly popular time for people to be out exploring, we might recommend, say, 10 days. So that could look to be around $20,000 to $30,000 for equipment hire. So hence why it washes its face pretty quickly and can generate a good income as a piece of equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Sears.
Kia ora, Your Worship. Thank you. Just a few questions on the Blossom Parade Festival budget line. Could you just explain, please, currently Arts and Kiratonga deliver the Blossom Festival? That's correct, isn't it? So what the current funding is and whether this budget line is on top of the current funding or including it. And thirdly, whether there's any external sponsorship involved in the Blossom Festival, or is there intended to be when we've got the TBC on sponsorship, whether you're looking to include that in that budget line?
Certainly through you, Chair. So the budget line doesn't include the Blossom Parade, which is what our current contract will continue to be for with Arts and Kiratonga. Sorry, I have a bit of brain fog at the moment. So this would be a wrap around to that. So that funding would still be continuing, which is in our annual plan. So this is additional. What we have not done before is go out for external sponsorship to that. We have done a little bit of investigating around what's happened in other locations that have a similar event, and it has a high level of commercial sponsorship. So we believe that in expanding the event to have, this is a similar model to what this other location does, where it's a multi-day event with multiple events rather than just the single parade, and so it gives a better vehicle to attract sponsorship. So yeah, we believe it's got some legs.
Thank you. Just to follow up, Your Worship. Yes. So the external funding that you feel confident around, would they be in addition to this budget, or you would look at bringing back this budget reduced by the sponsorship amounts over all of the activities?
Through Your Worship. So effectively what you'll note in the recommendations, they all talk about funding up to an amount, and that up to is assuming that there is no external funding. So the external funding from this point just improves the situation for council and reduces the impact on us as an organisation to find the required funds to deliver the program.
And I've got my first meeting tomorrow with a potential funder for the Apple project. So, you know, that we're going to go hard here. This is about partnership. This is not about council. We have been showing some leadership in how we get our community well-being back on track, but it's actually our partners who are going to deliver this, and our partners who will help us with the funding. Councillor Watkin.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a follow-up question on projection mapping, if I may. I see 40,000 to develop a program for Christmas. If we were to use this system, say 5 times during the year for completely different events, are we saying potentially we could be up for $40,000 each time to create the projection material for a new event? That's my first question. The second is the expertise to create those programs. Can that be done in-house, or does it always have to be done outside?
Through you, Chair. So to answer your first question, the cost of the creative does vary depending on the complexity of the building and the animation. So at that initial price level, it's looking at using an existing one and really augmenting it for our first building. So for example, with Christmas, we would have that investment in the first year. However, if we didn't do anything further with that animation, that we may use that, for example, up to 3 years, there would be no further development costs. So if we want to develop new creative, so at the moment we're just recommending it for one event in the first year. For the second year, we may then expand that to, I'm really keen to get it for Matariki. We had hoped to have some this year, but due to the timeframes, may not have time to get the full effect. But yes, each time, and it can vary. If we look at in our research to Papa, that did an amazing Matariki presentation, that was around 100,000 to develop that. But this is where the opportunities can come to buy the rights to use an existing presentation so that your development cost is limited to adjusting it to fit to your buildings, and then you can have ongoing use and just do minor updates. To answer your second question regarding the skill, it is a really complex skill and we would require specialist support. Having said that though, we are going to look at some diverse uses for it that may be a lot simpler and that could be used internally. One example is that I have seen done, Wellington City Council, when consulting in their long-term plan, I believe it was, on investment into a certain building, just had the question, projection back onto the building, should we be investing in developing this building? So that's just a simple text on a flat wall that I would hope that we could build capacity to be able to do that internally.
Thank you. Councillor Redstone?
Thank you, Your Worship. I've just got a follow-up question. Well, I've got 3 questions, but one's a follow-up. What's the comparative lease cost of the project mapping, projection mapping?
Through you, Chair, it's around $2,000 to $3,000 a day to hire the equipment. It's quite a substantial piece of kit, as you'll have seen at the Anzac Day. And the price variation is based on which unit you get, the location and the quantity.
Does that include the actual, no? So what would that add? So for instance, for the Anzac?
So for example, Anzac, I haven't got the example off the top of my head, but for example, if we did if we had first created that Anzac for the first one-off, say it cost $20,000 to create that animation, and then it's however long you want to add on to actually display it for is the additional cost. So if you want to put it on, let's use conservative fees for the ease of my maths, $2,000 a day hireage for 5 days, there's 10,000 plus the 20, so it'll be 30.
Thank you, that helps. Second question is the free parking trial we had last time. I'm just wondering if anyone can tell me what the benefit to the retailers as far as revenue was, or give an indication if there was a benefit.
I guess John can help answer that question, but effectively I think there's a lot of research that was done and there was no conclusive evidence that suggested for a direct tie between increased spend and free parking. But John?
Yes, I believe Bruce is correct. We actually had market share.
Could you come to the front?
It's not working.
Building can't hear.
Thank you. Through you, Worship. When we did the last long trial, we ran Market View and they did the PayPal statistics, for retail. It was a slightly different situation. We were having month on month growth and we had a reasonably strong economy. So in that circumstance, there was no no difference in terms of card activity. However, the Retail Association at the time did a survey and there was a very good, strong feeling of goodwill that was generated by it. So that's a pretty succinct summary of all the information that we got that last time.
Thanks, John. Just one more quick one. Under 4.7, we've got XX events planned over this time. I'm just wondering what that actual number is. Thank you.
And the chocolate fish goes to. Sorry, that was just seeing if there was an update, but we had, at the time of writing the report, 32 events booked between July and December, but the majority of those were not located in the city centre.
Can I also just add 3.8 that Councillor Wendy Sholem be added to the team who supported and helped develop the COVID response? 3.8, thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thanks. Just want to follow up on the question Councillor Watkins was asking about the projection system. I might have misheard you, but you mentioned 3 years as the duration of the program. Can I just finish the answer and then you can answer the whole thing? Are these programs subject to any sort of copyright? In other words, do we have free use of them once we have designed them? Or alternatively, is it possible to buy stock programs, that maybe others have commissioned that would substantially reduce the cost because the development cost could be eliminated?
Sorry, through you, Chair. Yes, the 3 years I was using as an example of how long I feel that we could get out of an animation before it kind of got stale. But yes, that example is, yes, if we develop it, we own it as an IP through, like we would procure design or anything else. And yes, the Christmas one we're looking at is an existing animation that we would be buying the rights to use and have edited to suit our facade. So the development costs from scratch do vary. Quite, as I said, it depends on the complexity of the development. So, so I'm just looking to the expert on that.
Come up to the mic.
My Russell Gordon boots.
Oh, very nice.
Thank you. I just wanted to get a bit more height. I have to sit down. Look, yeah, the complexity around projection mapping is around the structure that we are projecting onto. So it is bespoke to that particular building. For example, over Anzac, the flowers came out of the little windows. Now, if there's a bigger space that can be used, that can be manipulated to be used in our space. But essentially, anything that we create is specific to the design of the building. Does that make? Yeah. So it makes it very, very unique to us as a region. Now, if, let's say, for example, Te Papa had an amazing Matariki projection mapping that was projected onto Te Papa, it is specific to Te Papa, but it doesn't mean there's not elements that can't be pulled from that creative and utilised for us to use on one of our buildings.
So can I just add to the question? So if we did get a stock program, do we have to pay every time we use it, or can we, once we've bought access, can we use it on a repeating basis?
When you say stock program, can you just...
Well, the example you gave, if we could access the Christmas program because it's a stock program, that's the term used in this sort of thing, then do we have to pay every time we use it? Like every year we'd have to pay another fee or...
Correct. If we develop it ourselves from scratch, it's ours. We can tweak it as we see fit. If we don't wish to do that, then every year there would be absolutely an ongoing cost for us to hire or buy in that stock image to be used unless we purchased it outright.
That's the answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Scholler.
Thank you, Worship. Just more clarity around projection mapping. So thank you, Andrea, for staying up there. I'm interested to understand, so if council was of a mind to buy the projection mapping system and we were of a mind to invest in, say, coming up with an amazing animation to bring Toi Toi, in particular the municipal buildings, to life, I'm just thinking about our opportunities there. I imagine there would be quite a high setup cost, as there is usually with these things. What about in the future? So say we had it all mapped out, that particular building, and we wanted to tweak it a little bit and maybe have, at winter time there's, not that it's relevant to New Zealand, but snowflakes, and in autumn there's leaves dropping or something like that. How does that impact cost?
The beauty with projection mapping is once we have that architecture of that building in place, that makes it a lot easier because those figures or those dimensions are there. So it's just us laying imagery onto that. So we're not having to create the facade again, for example. So
wonderful. And one final question around it. If we were to have a nice big blank surface, say a giant water reservoir,
yes.
Would we be able to project onto that not just potentially words or pictures? I imagine that would be a much easier structure to project onto, but could we project something more innovative, like moving video or whatever? Can you...
100%, and the beauty with the projector that we are looking at, it's actually little bit of an upgrade that it's not going to cost you anymore, but it essentially means that it's, so if you remember the Poppy projection, so that was a 10,000 lumen projector. We're looking at a 30,000, so it's significantly brighter, probably about 6 times brighter. The resolution is higher, and the ambient light becomes less of an issue for us. So it basically means with Wairaha, we would, and in fact I spoke earlier today to Toulouse, Mark Simpson up there, and when I told him that we were looking at this size, he said that's very exciting and something quite unique for the provinces. So he was pretty stoked that that's something we could use.
Wonderful, thank you. Well said. Thank you. Geraldine? Thank you, Geraldine. Well said. Malcolm?
Yeah, thank you, Worship, and it's wonderful to follow on from Councillor Travis, to be honest, because when we came up with this package, we went through 20 different options, basically, and these are the ones we finally came out with. And what it was to do was to support the wider community, an attempt to uplift everybody and encourage them to support all the local initiatives and the businesses and the hospitality industry. So that was the purpose we came up with this wide range.
Thank you.
And delighted to move the recommendations, Your Worship.
But just got one more question,
But I
but
wanna-
thank you for that.
I want to clarify
Yes.
my moving of G. Can I do that at this stage? G is split into two parts.
We'll just finish the questions. Last question, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, and thanks, John, for staying in the hot seat for a little bit longer. Just want to better understand some of the framework guidelines around what would be free parking. Are we talking about an hour? Are we talking a day? Those types of guidelines. You talk about a loss of revenue of $50,000. Is that because it is all day, or after an hour people do pay, so that actually isn't as much as what it could be?
Yeah, the proposal that we understood would be 8 hours a day for on-street and off-street parking. So that's how we worked the figures through, and that would be for the full month. The lease parking would still be charged. So that's how the proposal was formed up in terms of cost.
And just a secondary question, how do we ensure that it isn't taken advantage of?
Yeah.
And we have, anecdotal evidence that has occurred in the past. So how do we make sure that that doesn't occur?
Yeah, and we've had the same observations from our staff members. So what we do is the time limits are still in place. So you know how you're looking at an item later today on the time limits, those would still be enforced even though it's free. So our staff would be out moving around, ensuring that turnover is happening. So that would mean it's free, but you've still got your hour or 2 hour, depending which location you're in.
Thank you. And one more, just around, again, the revenue that is brought in, what do we sacrifice due to not having that revenue? What are the things that where there is a flow-on effect?
It's probably twofold, is depending where we fund it from. It's either going to come from the funding that is allowed for the initiatives, or if it does flow into the parking account, then what happens is we have less funds there available to service loans and do future works. So the reserve account comes down.
Future work in the CBD?
Most of the expenditure that comes out of that account is purely related to either Havelock. We do some study work in Havelock, but the majority of it is in parking work in the CBD.
Parking work. Can you give me an example?
That could be, as an example, the laneway at 117 that Council talked about. We're looking at just fixing up some work in the back of the 200 block, and setting out car spaces and doing some resealing. that type of work.
So councillor Harvey, it could be that part of the decision-making, if you're interested in acknowledging the month of July free parking, that you would include it into the contingency of a COVID response and recovery. And it's not going to impinge on any activity that comes generated from parking revenue, if that's something that you wish.
So just a question related to that. Are you saying adding the 51k to the already 300 odd?
So
or are you saying to
I think
absorb
that
something
Chief
with that?
Executive need to answer that, because you're talking about an up to sum of money. We haven't got a clear definitive sum of money that our COVID response and recovery is going to cost from our contingency, because we are seeking outside sponsorship and from wider community. So, but the CFO, you might like to, Bruce.
Through your worship. So I think where we've got to with providing the funding allocations for this program of work, as you can see in the report, it does stretch things, and we've reprioritised existing budgets. The Chief Executive's made a commitment to find funding through savings and reallocations, and we do have the contingency as a backstop to pay for the activities. At the moment, parking's not part of that number that's been put forward, and I think, Your Worship, to keep things clean would be if there was a reduced revenue within the parking activity because we're providing free parking, that actually the parking activity bears that cost. As John was alluding to, there is a consequence to that, because Council's current funding regime around any parking developments in the CBD, whether they be laneways or car parks, are funded from the car parking activity. So you reduce the amount of income under the current funding regime that goes into that reserve. It just makes it a little bit more difficult going forward to fund parking initiatives, unless you change, of course, how those activities are funded, and that's entirely your prerogative.
So just a follow-up to that, there was questions related to more longer-term parking solutions, including buildings. Two buildings were suggested that could be, or car park buildings could be created. By losing this income, do you see that being a setback to that form of funding?
So, Councillor Harvey, as we've heard from Mr O'Shaughnessy, there is a parking study being undertaken currently. It's going to come back to you all in October. All consideration will be given. The business community are asking for more leased car parking. Staff are asking for more car parking, but we first of all have to understand what is working and what isn't, and that study will come back to you in October. Because we don't have that information to make informed decision of whether we invest in parking buildings or what else, or we buy more land for parking, until we understand what our community actually needs for the future. Right, so I'm going to go back now to Councillor Dixon okay, thank you. All right, so Councillor Dixon, did you want to just now take a direction on the recommendations?
Yes, thank you.
And you have a seconder over there with Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship.
He doesn't know what he's seconding yet, but that's okay. That's all right, he's supporting you.
So we're all on the right line now, on the right
Yes,
same
thank
page?
you, the right time.
Thank you very much. Recommendations A through to H, I'd like to move. A clarification of G, that the council decline the opportunity to provide free car parking in the CBD as petitioned. I'd like that included, the other line deleted. And my reasoning behind that part of it is, previously I was on the Business Association when free parking came through, and I fully supported it, but it never actually worked. The business owners and their employees seized the opportunity to park closer to where they worked, and they spoiled part of it. They abused the privilege. The shoppers really never took advantage of it, and the retail, in comparison, as Mr O'Shaughnessy said, didn't show any significant difference. The only thing it actually showed was it was goodwill. So I can't see the sense in spending $51,000 of funding that can go to a better purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you can. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Nixon. Councillor Dixon.
Yes.
If you're comfortable with a recommendation, I don't think councillors have had sufficient discussion and debate on parking as a direction. So if you're comfortable with a recommendation to move, unless I've got a seconder for that recommendation, which is decline the petition.
Can I ask a question, Your Worship?
Yes.
Process question. Forgive me if I'm wrong, and I am looking to democratic support for this. I was of the understanding that Councillor Kerr had moved the motion with an amendment to it, and I had seconded it earlier at the start of this meeting.
For H.
Yeah.
That's the safety and security one? Yes.
Okay, so just that part. So do we have to put that?
So
just
what
looking for
we'll
clarity.
do is, Councillor Dixon, if you're comfortable to go, remove a recommendation from A to F with a seconder, then I'll take the two separately, because I've got H moved and seconded.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon seconded. So now we'll move into G. So I have a mover and a seconder. And so H has already been agreed. We have a mover and a seconder for agreed. We'll take each one, each of those groups separately. So now I'd like to have some feedback and debate on G, please. What councillors consider important, starting with Councillor Redstone on G, and have the debate around the petition and whether or not you want a month's free parking for the CBD.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually support Councillor Dixon in that I don't know that we should be encouraging more cars into town in this environment. I'd like to see more cycling incentivised, more walking incentivised, and yeah, for me, this is not a green option. We need less exhaust fumes, less fuel consumption, and increased road safety. So, and aside from that, we haven't proved that there's any benefit in doing this. I'd rather we spent the 50,000 on encouraging better options, if you like, for the retailers.
Councillor Redstone. Councillor Nixon.
Yes, it hasn't been moved, has it? Okay, because I would like to move that we do accept the 1 month parking exemption. It is, after all, only 1 month. It's a gesture, I think, more than anything, that we are showing goodwill to the retailers. If we were proposing eternal or very long period, I would be voting quite the other way. But I think on this occasion, 1 month is an acceptable risk, and I think it might have the right effect. Against all our other expenses, it's actually not that great.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Councillor Barber. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Barber.
I think,
No. No.
Didn't have a second.
Simon didn't second it. Thank you. Just now, did you? Oh, well, then we have to go back. Okay, sorry.
Right.
I didn't hear you. I didn't see you stand and second that. All right, so we need to go back now. That's right. We're back to Councillor Dixon, who has moved A, B, C, D, E, F, and declines the opportunity for free parking in the CBD. G. Okay, and no, H has already been taken care of. Thank you. All right. Now, so we have a mover or a seconder for those recommendations. Now I'll have debate and any amendments or any changes. I'll take now the conversation and debate around that moving of those recommendations. Nixon, Mr. Councillor Nixon, you still got you're still.
All I was going to say is, we're discussing it, are we not? We're discussing
Parking.
Parking.
Yes.
And I did try to move that we accept the 1 month free.
No.
No?
Councillor Redstone had already seconded the recommendations, so it's changed now. So I'm going to take Councillor Barber. So Councillor Barber, we're talking about those recommendations that have been moved by Councillor Dixon, seconded by Councillor Redstone, which is not to include the parking.
Okay. Kia ora, so I'll speak against that motion. I was at the hui the other night at Toi Toi. Have also had an opportunity to read the survey results. I mean, consistent with the kōrero that came through. So, you know, I'm hearing about the 50K, understand the budget implications, but in terms of, I guess, the opportunity to uplift the CBD, our retailers are saying that it will have an impact, positive impact on their business. It's only for 4 weeks. Yeah, and I agree with Simon. I think it sends a gesture of support from council to our retailers, businesses in the CBD. So you know, I'll speak against the motion. Maybe if I wasn't at the hui, it might be different. But I was there and had an opportunity to hear the feedback. But in saying that, I think you know there's kind of a macro strategic thing that we need to be looking at, Your Worship, around our CBD. This is going to quell some of the issue for a short term, but you know there's bigger macro elements that we need to be looking at. And so yeah, I'll just leave my comments there.
Okay, thank you. And if we seek further direction, I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship. Again, I'm sorry, I'm testing democratic support today with standing orders. Just wanting to understand if it's correct procedure right now for me to request a foreshadow a motion if I would like to indicate that I will move the opposite if Councillor Dixon fails in his endeavours with his motion.
Yes.
Anyone?
Yes, you definitely can. But if you could give our team a couple of minutes to just work through what, you know, how we're going to move forward because we've got so many recommendations to deal with. So let's just adjourn for 2 minutes, and then we'll come back to you, Councillor Sholem. Thank you.
My lawyer. 2 months. Ed, who's it? Oh, yeah.
Sorry, turn your mics.
Okay, can everybody resume? Thank you. So, just because we've got so many recommendations, I'm going to take the mover of Councillor Dixon, seconded by Councillor Nixon, of A to F. I'm taking that separately because that's what Councillor Nixon seconded, that's what Councillor Dixon first moved. So we're going to do A to F. Can everybody have a look at A to F, which is largely the COVID response and recovery plan? Any questions? We've already dealt with H, so we've got to move in a second for H. That was Councillor Kerr and Councillor Sholem, and carried. No, okay. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to put that recommendation, and that's A to F, moved by Councillor Dixon, second by Councillor Nixon. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Councillor Corbyn, you voted against?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
I'm not totally in favour of option 1. I was hoping that we would consider option 3, which was an assessment of the items in option 1, in particular the purchase of the projection mapping equipment. I think there's other options to get that equipment, which would be more cost effective, certainly in the first 12 months, until we worked out how we would use the equipment, how often, etc., etc.
Thank you, Councillor Corbyn. Do you want your vote recorded?
Yes, please.
And it would be probably helpful when we're having the debate to put your views
I
forward.
did have it on before you took.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Apologies.
But
All right.
I have a disadvantage of being in the back row.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So that is carried. Now I'm going to take first and foremost comments, continued comments. Anyone else to want to speak for or against the motion? I have a motion put by Councillor Dixon to decline, seconded by Councillor Redstone, to decline the free parking for the month of July. Anyone wish to speak? Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship. Just again, to make sure it hasn't been lost, I would like to foreshadow a motion which is the opposite of what's currently on the table, but also with an amendment that Council work closely with the Hastings City Business Association to ensure promotion around that period should it be adopted.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll take that second. We're going to take the motion on the floor first, but thank you for leading us in that direction. Councillor O'Keefe.
I'd like to respectfully speak against the motion. In my opinion, the tears that cascaded down the cheeks of that lady cannot be underestimated. I think this is about, look, money's right up there with oxygen, but it's not everything. It's not everything. Sorry, Bruce. But on this occasion, I think it's about the relationship. I do. It's about relationship building. That's what I saw up there. That's what I saw up there. And so, anyway, Anne and Malcolm weren't at the meeting, so. So anyway, thank you, Your Worship.
We'll take that one. We're told to sit down. Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also wasn't at the meeting on Tuesday night. And for those who know me well know that money is right up there near oxygen. But actually, when I look at the purpose of this report and the purpose of the work that's been done, it's about social wellbeing and the wellbeing of our community. And although there may not be that scientific mathematical evidence that says we will get a rate of return, the sense of wellbeing that's generated within our CBD community is imperative. And to understand that the parking wardens will still be checking, so it can't be abused. For that simple reason, it's about our social wellbeing. I cannot support the motion.
Councillor Kerr. Councillor Seed.
Kia ora, thank you, Your Worship. Well, I may as well go off topic because this has gone so far anyway. If there wasn't already a foreshadowed motion, I'd go for another one. But notwithstanding Henare's words about tears down cheeks, yes, they are important. And how our community feel about their businesses and where they can park and how they can park, that they are really important factors. So I do want to acknowledge those. And I do support the motion on the table, which is to decline the petition on the basis that actually vibrant, engaged and connected communities are communities that cycle and walk, have inner city living, have bigger green space, and actually the move towards moving cars out of our city centre. I would very much support the 51,000 that we gained over that month to be put to a fund to create better walking, biking, etc. Activity within our CBD, because actually that is the way forward for our community and for our businesses. So on that basis, I'm supporting the motion on the table.
Councillor Harvey, last speaker.
Yes, thank you. I also support the foreshadowed move put forward. I see this as really, with the parking, has the ability to uplift our community and has a really positive impact on the businesses within our CBD. And more so, I think, from, again, what we experienced on Tuesday night in their wellbeing, and I can see that this is going to have another kick to them. We're all about Hastings Alive, and we are a part of it as well. You know, we've invested over $60 million just in building investment alone in our CBD in recent years, much of which is going to open in August, and this is only going to benefit some of those that are partnering us within that complex of Toi Toi. So I'm incredibly supportive of it. The Business Association and its members had the courtesy to listen to what we put forward on Tuesday night. They provided us with feedback to that, and they also put forward some of their stuff, and I think it's out of courtesy that we should acknowledge those and make some amendments to what we've put in front of us today.
Thank you. I also don't support this motion, and I do support the month of free parking. And my reason is that we have a very strong relationship with our business association. This is unprecedented times. This isn't what's gone on. This isn't about what's happening in the future. This is about what's happening now. And this is about how we're going to get our businesses to renew their leases, for people to feel safe and excited about coming into our city. And that's what we need to do now. In the future, we can look at many, many other options. In the past, we've looked at other options. We didn't have a worldwide pandemic, 1 in a 100-year event. That's what we have now. We have people stressed, people hurting, and we have to look at ways that we can support them now in association with other exciting things that our business community can bring to make this a really vibrant month of July. So I'm now going to put the motion, which is not to support parking in the CBD for the month of July. All those in favour of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Show of hands, please. 3, 4. Those against? Thank you. That motion is carried. Oh, sorry, the motion is lost. We're all a bit brain drained today, aren't we?
Very dictatorial.
Now I'm taking the motion, the foreshadowed motion by Councillor Sholem and seconded by Councillor Harvey, and that is to agree to put free parking in the month of July in the CBD to reignite, rebuild and recreate our fabulous city in a very difficult trading month of July. Councillor Sholem, did you want to speak to your foreshadowed motion?
Thank you. I'll keep it brief as much of it's already been said. What I would like to ask publicly here is if Council does by majority pass this motion, that we are clearly showing we support our business community in this challenging time, and we ask them to do everything possible to take advantage of that support and promote it widely and loudly, not just through the Business Association, but through all their social media channels, that there is free parking in Hastings for the month of July.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Councillor Harvey?
Oh, no, sorry.
Councillor Dixon?
Thank you, Worship. I can see that this particular thing is a movement of goodwill for the wider community, and that's part of it. I'd like to see some form of study carried out to see how effective it was, and case this comes up in the future about free parking, and we've got some data and some statistics around it on how good it, does it work or doesn't it work. I know it's only for a month, but if I was at the meeting the other night, I'd have thought that free parking, $50,000 or better security, what would the Business Association have chosen?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Shonham?
Thank you, Worship. Again, would just like to clarify that H has been adopted, which is investment and security. Is that correct?
Yes, it
Great,
has
so we
been.
have covered that off. And also, I wouldn't support a study being done over such a short period of time in a COVID recovery period. It's not going to be reflective of the long term. So I'd be very hesitant to see that type of study done on this particular period. Maybe when we're back to life as normal.
Thank you very much. I agree. Councillor Kerr?
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I just see a copy of the recommendations the recommendation that we're being asked to move, please?
I'll take Councillor Lawson while the recommendation's coming up.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want a point of clarification. Is it going to come out of the parking budget or the contingency budget?
Contingency.
Contingency.
No. Bruce, can you just answer that, please?
Certainly. So this is, we treat it as a continuation of the parking activity, so it'll just have a reduced benefit to the parking reserve.
Would you, the mover, did you want to have that added, where that budget's coming from into the recommendation?
Can I
That
raise
will
a point of
provide
order?
greater certainty for the rest of the council. I'm very happy for that. to be
Thank
included.
you. Councillor Kerr?
A question to the mover, if I may. Was there a need to add to the recommendation your request to the Business Association, or are you happy that it is more a relationship-based comment?
Thank you for picking that, Councillor Kerr. I had forgotten my own motion. I would actually really appreciate some kind of statement in there, and I'm not sure what the wording will be. I'm terribly sorry. I'm looking at democratic support. Something around the lines of leveraging it effectively with partners. We don't need to specifically say the Business Association.
I probably got the words.
You're just
requesting the Business Association. No, you got the three Ys.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Nixon?
Yeah, thanks. To me, there's a little bit of confusion. I thought Mr. O'Shaughnessy said it would come out of the COVID Recovery Fund.
No, just to clarify, there are two possible sources, either parking or the recovery money.
Did you actually say that at the time?
Yes, yeah, there are two choices.
I couldn't have heard it. I think the other thing to remember, just speaking in favour of it, is, since they're doing something there, yeah, we're spending a lot of money, and not all these things will directly benefit the retailers, but the retailers did specifically ask for a month's free parking.
But if we look at Jeanette's petition that she led, many of the people were people who visit our businesses in town. So it wasn't just the retailers, it wasn't just the association.
But at the meeting the other night, those were retailers, and it did seem to come out quite strongly that they supported the 1 month parking, and that has influenced my support for them.
Thank you. Right, we just check everyone's comfortable with this recommendation that council includes 1 month's free parking as part of the COVID-19 Recovery Action Plan, develops a program with the Hastings City Business Association to promote free parking and free parking for the month of July, please. And that it is funded through the parking reserve. Thank you. Is everyone comfortable with that? Any questions? Councillor Sholem?
Yes, happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sears?
I'm just a little bit confused, Your Worship. There isn't a budget because it's just money not earned. So I'm wondering why we're looking for budget from anywhere. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, effectively, there is a net cost to council. So whether it's money incurred or spent or money not received, there is a negative impact on the parking reserve. So this is merely recognising the fact that there is that negative impact.
Cool. Okay, any questions? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Show of hands. Against? 1, 2. Okay, 3. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Excellent. Well done, team. Well done. That's awesome. And we look forward to our working with our partners to create an amazing July in Hastings City. This is going to be a fabulous time, bring people into town and allowing them to feel really excited about all the amazing stuff going on in Hastings. And can I thank Naomi and Vicky for their hard work on this plan, please? Cool. And for the councillors who worked on it as well. Right, now, item number 8, Hastings City parking time zones. Welcome, John. Councillor Watkins, any questions?
No questions, Your Worship.
Thank you. John, did you want to add anything to your paper or take it as read?
Take it as read. Just like to put forward the argument that I don't agree it takes 2 hours to get a haircut.
Oh, okay, fair comment. Fair comment, yes. Councillor Corbyn. Councillor Corbyn?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a question. Currently, does the technology allow the transfer of your parking if you book in a 2-hour zone into a 1-hour zone? Like, do you still have your 2 hours? Or can that be, how's that going to be communicated if we go with the recommendation? Because currently you can book your parking for an hour, shift to a different part of town, and it's still valid.
Yeah.
So if you go from a 2-hour zone to a 1-hour zone, what happens?
Very good point. Very good point.
Yep. No, that's a good point. We'll have to work through that with our programmers. So, depends on what your payment method is as well. Like, for example, if you use the phone app, you only pay for what you use. So you start your parking and you stop your parking. And if you're allowed to park for 2 hours, but you only park for 3/4 of an hour, you then stop it. But you then start it again at another place. So that would balance you off exactly right. Unfortunately, if you put coins in, though, that might be a bit trickier to work through.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, do you think this will be confusing for the public, that they can park here for 2 hours, but they can't transfer their 2 hour to Hiratonga Street for 1 hour? And how would that be communicated?
I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to transfer it as long as they've still got time on their plate.
Yeah, I'm really asking in an instance where they've got booked 2 hours, spent half an hour here, they want to go to Hiratonga Street for an hour and a half, and they've got an hour and a half paid for.
Yeah, they can't go to Hiratonga Street for an hour and a half because that would be an hour's time zone.
There's only an hour time zone for Hiratonga Street. Councillor Nixon?
Yes, thanks. We've spent a considerable amount of time today discussing how to get more people into town, get them into the shops. And frankly, the best way to get rid of them is to limit their parking to 1 hour. In my view, and I will move that we go for 2 hour blanket across the board. It's not complicated. It's really simple. So long as they're paying, I think that's fine. We might actually recover a bit more money by encouraging people to stay longer and pay longer. So that I move the motion to go for 2 hours across the board. Oh, could I just add?
Is that option 1?
And anybody that takes their wives or whoever downtown will be told. Most of Hastings now, it's very dominated by shops that are aimed more towards females rather than males, and they do need more time. I'm told repeatedly by women, they need more time to make their selections, and I think we should acknowledge it's a reality. We should acknowledge it and respond to it.
Okay, so councillor Nixon, you're not supporting the recommendations, which says that, so you're not? No, okay, all right, I'll take other speakers, please. Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, thank you, John. Can you just explain what the difference is between Napier and Hastings and parking? It was brought up the other evening as well around that, and that people actually did feel as if they had more time when they went over to Napier to shop. And so I just want to understand that a bit better and what the difference is, if any.
Yep, I believe Napier's just in the process of putting in some new meters to match the same as ours, yeah. But they've had 2-hour parking for quite a long time. And they feel that when they went from 1 hour to 2 hour, this is the feedback they've been giving us, is that it improved the vibrancy and got a lot more customer clientele in there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Sholem?
Thank you, Worship. Just wanting to clarify, the report as it stands, the option that was recommended was option 1, is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Which is Heretonga Street remains 1 hour and all the other street are 2 hours.
With absolute respect for my colleague, speaking as a woman who likes shopping in our CBD, I do actually support option 1 because I see Heretonga Street as especially as a mum, as somewhere to stop in, grab something, go into the shops, come back out and move your car on. If I'm there for a haircut, to shop extensively, to lunch and whatnot, which absolutely we do, Councillor Nixon, I tend to park elsewhere down the side streets that are proposed anyway. So I won't second Councillor Nixon's motion. Because there's not a seconder yet, can I move something else, or would you like to call for a seconder for Councillor Nixon?
I'll call for a seconder of Councillor Nixon, which is option 2, which is 2 hours everywhere across the CBD. You got it? You're seconding that, Councillor Corbyn?
I'd like to second that, and the reason is I think option 1 is impractical.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll come back to you, Councillor. We'll take this motion as it stands. I put the motion, which is that instead of where it says B, you're changing that to option 2. Is that correct, Councillor Nixon? Okay, I'm going to put that recommendation. Is everyone clear? You're all clear?
Say that again?
So Councillor Nixon's moving that option 2 instead of option 1, which is 2 hours across the whole city. Parking, 2 hours across the whole city. Is everyone quite clear? Oh, right.
I've got a question.
But that goes against the survey. You realise that, councillors? That goes against the survey that has been undertaken. All right. So you've said sufficient. The mover. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Question.
Oh. Question on option 2. Okay. Questions starting with Councillor Barber. Is that on option 2? That's 2 hours across the whole city, or just generally speaking in favour of a motion?
No, just generally speaking, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the problems is you know, the picture theatres on Heretonga Street. And normally when you're taking kids to the movies, you're parking you're trying to park as close as possible, really. And to have to be in the movie and come out halfway to move the car, it's a bit of a haul-ha. You know, I'll just put that there. But in terms of our family and families that are in town, an hour can be very short. It's a short amount of time. You got to keep an eye on where your car is, etc., etc. And the other thing is the fines. That they're doing their job these days, and 1 minute over 1 hour, boom, you're hit. You're hit. So yeah, I'm supporting.
Supporting the motion on the table, which is option 2. Yep, like 2 hours across the city. Okay, Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question, and it really relates to what Councillor Corbyn asked regarding the practical nature of being able to implement option one.
Mhm.
I'd like to know a little bit more about that, if I could, before making a decision or making a judgment. Is it possible to implement option one without too many issues?
Yep, I can't see any problem. If you park, you register your plate, and when your plate is active, it needs to be in an area that allows you that amount of time. So if you paid for 2 hours and you're in a 1 hour zone, you still have to move after 1 hour, but your plate is still active for another hour, so you can go and park somewhere else. So there should be no problem with it.
Thank you. Councillor Sears.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, my question was exactly the same as Councillor Lawson's, but my point of clarification is that you say it's against the survey, Your Worship, but the point is that option one is the preferred option of the business owners and option two is the preferred option of the shoppers. So I think it's important to understand what we're trying to do, and if we're trying to get the shoppers in, then probably option two is better, and if we're trying to do what the business association or the business owners would like, then it's option one. So I'd like to understand, actually, I went back to the discussion at the beginning, it actually wasn't clear what exactly the outcome was we were seeking. Is it to do something for the shoppers to help them to come for longer, or is it to do something for the business association?
I think, Your Worship, it's a balance of both. The business association clearly want traffic turnover, but they also want people to have enough time to be able to do their shopping. So, hence the difference.
Councillor Sears, you comfortable with that response?
Well, it's not a balance because they're opposite sides of the coin. So I suppose it just is going to come up to us individually to kind of choose which one we're supporting.
Yep, cool. Thank you. John?
Through you, Madam Chair. Remember back in 2021, one of the really strong themes that came through was everyone was very keen for more time. And that came through, in terms of the whole issue about free parking. It was free parking was a good stimulus, but more longer periods came just as strongly through all the surveys. So if you go back to when we made the 21 decision, that was a factor, and that's why John went out with the survey.
Thank you. Councillor Redstone.
Thank you, Johanna. Just my view is that when you go shopping, you don't want to be rushed back to the meter at an hour. And if that's the only part you could actually get, that's near enough. There's a lot more elderly in our community now, and there will be more in the future. So for me, I'm more than supportive of the 2 hour across the board. I also think it simplifies things for everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship. Just to clarify, can you please take us through the number of submissions that were received? I realise it's in the report, but I think we just want to step through it to make sure we're understanding. The number of submissions that were received, what percentage of those were from shoppers versus businesses, and then what the average outcome was of all those responses, not segregating them into businesses and shoppers.
Yes, that is on 4.3. If you can just take the councillors through 4.3.
So there were 207 submissions. 75% of those were from shoppers. 77 of the submitters chose option 1, 95 chose option 2, and the remaining 35 option 3. Or some of them have suggested an alternative option, which was things like free parking and that sort of stuff.
Thank you.
So from the shoppers supported option 1, that was 37%, but they supported option 2, obviously wanting longer time to shop, which was their motivation, 57%. So they supported more the full 2 hours. Business owners, they supported option 1, which was making the Hiratonga Street more of a turnover and the rest of it 2 hours, so the shoppers get kind of the best of both worlds. But some of them also did support, like 33% did support option 2, which was the whole area. And then workers, 49% of them supported option 1 and 41, so they were a little quite even on option 1 or option 2.
Thank you for that. If I may, Your Worship, with the motion currently on the table being option 2, I'd like to speak against that motion, predominantly because option 1 achieves the best of both worlds. It's achieving what our business community is asking for us, which is turnover in the main stretch and allowing people to quickly run in, grab something and leave, and rest assured that there's turnover in that street, whilst also catering for shoppers who want to linger and enjoy the CBD, which of course we want to encourage. So I will speak against the current motion and hopefully won't have to foreshadow another one.
Thank you, Councillor Sholin. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Corbin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to talk to that table in 4.3. I think the bottom line there, average, is a little misleading. If you look at the top line, by far the preferred option was option 2, when you average everything out, 95, yet the bottom line says 43% preferred option 2. I think what's happened is the percentages have been averaged rather than the actual 95 divided by 207.
Thank you. Geraldine. Councillor Travis.
I'm a Bob each way kind of person, and I think it's demeaning. Don't misconstrue that, please. I think it's kind of demeaning to our population to believe that they can't deal with rules being different in different places. For goodness sake, your dog can do that. So in fact, I think to actually have the freedom to have our main street on a revolving kind of population, so that people aren't hogging and tying up those precious parking spaces for long periods of time, and yet those people who know that they've got more things that are going to take a lot longer, having the option of just parking around the corner, for goodness sake. We're not talking about New York here, we're talking about Hastings. And just having a multiplicity of options, I think, is really, really sensible.
Thank you, Councillor Travis. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, just a quick question. When would this come into play? After the free parking 1 month?
That would probably be more practical, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Sholin.
Sorry, one final question. Just looking at our neighbours, which is Napier, which is where so many of our community traverse over to as well, although we'd love to keep them exclusively in the Hastings CBD. Can you refresh my memory? Last time I visited there, I am sure in the main street it was about 15 minutes limited parking in that Innocent Street type area, and then in other areas it was 1 hour, and then off street it was 2 hours. So I'm just trying to get an understanding. Is that, am I recalling that correctly? I don't want to say something that's incorrect.
Yes, I think in areas where they want high turnover, like in their off-street car park that's quite close to the city centre, that's a 1 hour.
Right.
And then the other one that's a bit further away, that's a 2 hour. But in regards to all the other controls that we've already put in place, like a 15-minute and a loading zone and those sorts of things, those will all stay. So they'll create a quick turnover, for example, outside a dairy or a chemist.
Excellent, thank you. So my assumption that actually our population's used to mixed parking across the district or across the region's fair. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Corbin.
I think Napier is 2 hours everywhere except Emerson Street. Tennyson Street is definitely 2 hours. Dickens Street, 2 hours. Yeah.
So that is a high street. It's very similar. Option 1 is to Napier, Emerson Street. Yeah, that's their high street. same as Heri Taunga. So that's option one that they have. All right, so no more speakers on that. We have a motion, councillor
Yes, one.
Barber.
Yeah.
We're just going to put the recommendations up so everyone can see what has been moved.
Yeah, I get a lot of feedback from whānau that get fines, and this hour, and then you get a fine. It's a real thing. So 2 hours gives some relief. You're not racing around checking your watch, that kind of thing. We need people in the CBD. Let them stay there longer, spend more money. But the fines, yeah, I have some concerns about that. They are hefty, and for those that can't afford it, it's a big deal. So 2 hours, I think, is appropriate. And yeah, like I said, our parking wardens are everywhere in Hastings these days. They never used to be. Napier used to be the place where you get the big fines, but Hastings is
Yes, they're hungry.
Hastings has lifted its game in that area, and 2 hours I think would be beneficial, especially for a lot of whānau that are coming into the CBD. All right, kia ora.
Kia ora. Councillor Redstone. Oh, sorry, John, did you want to
Yes,
respond?
sorry, just a point of clarification. The majority of fines come as a result of non-payment or expired payment rather than overstaying. So the majority of fines are for non-payment.
That's not my case. Councillor Redstone?
Mine either. My view is, I'm just adding to what Councillor Barber said, my view is if you have to go back to the meter and pay again, quite often it's easier to get in the car and go, which is not to the retailer's advantage.
So I'm just wanting to make sure that everyone's very, very, as Geraldine pointed out, what this means. You're talking Heri Taunga, 1 hour. You're talking the rest. Just make sure that you're very well aware what option one and option two are. So, so we're just going to put the motion on the table, which is that council resolves pursuant to section 5.3 of the Hastings District Council Consolidated Bylaw 2021 that all streets have a 2 hour time limit as identified in the table. As option two. So I can't see it very well. Does everyone see that all right? Everyone understands that's the motion on the table? Right, no further speakers. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Just raise your hands, please. Aye to that. 2 hours everywhere. Against? Motion is lost. Thank you. What was Geraldine vote?
I voted.
Sorry, Geraldine. Did you vote for or against the motion? Sorry, we couldn't see. You're on mute.
Anticipation.
I voted against the motion and raised my hand.
Thank you very much. Lost 6-9. Thank you. Councillor Shodham.
Can I please move the original motion in the report?
Yes, thank you. Happy to second it. Any questions or comments on that motion? We're going to put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Show of hands. Aye. Yeah, yes, let's see who changes. Oh, have you? Good. Against? Against? Cool. Carried 9-6. Thank you very much. Thank you to John and John. We've got just a couple more items before we break for tea. Flaxmere representation, item 9. Receiving this report and work that is going to be currently undertaken to look at Flaxmere representation and shareholder and stakeholder engagement with the change in representation. Any questions?
I'm happy
Councillor?
happy to move the
Thank you,
recommendations.
Councillor Keogh. Councillor Lawson? Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Any questions or comments? Thank you. I'll put those recommendations. This is receiving this paper. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Louise, this is item 10. And this is the LGNZ conference to attend in Palmerston North, and those councillors attending. Someone like to move? Thank you. Councillor Nixon. Councillor Watkins, second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, kia ora, Your Worship. We have a Te Maruata caucus meeting down in wherever the conference is. And I'm the deputy chair, so I need to be there. They're quite important meetings. Normally get a few of the ministers come in and give an update. So I'll be attending that. They're open to funding our travel down there. One of the things I do get often asked to do is some of the formalities around, the whakatau and things of that nature. So I've done that for the last kind of 3-4 years now.
Yes.
So I'm just putting that in front of the council that
Thank you.
that may be kind of asked again. See where that goes. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool. So I have a mover and a seconder. Put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried.
Your Worship.
Remit. Yes. Councillor Kerr.
Can I just ask a process question? We received, I believe, via email a remit from another council regarding Waka Kotahi and funding of roads. When will that come through for us to formally address it?
When will that remit come for formal council? So, yeah, I think that we just take that as an action, and I think that we take, we haven't done our remits this year, so we need to think about that within the next couple of days, please. Democratic support. We have talked about it. Thank you. So I have a mover and a seconder, please. Have I got those? Who have I got? I've forgotten. Do I put the motion? Yeah. Oh, it's done. Oh, so we have put the motion, Tan. You just asked that instead. Oh, okay then. Thank you. All right, Nagoimas. Item number 11. Louise, did you want to add anything to your paper? Okay. Any questions on the Nagoima request? Moved by Councillor Watkins, seconded by Councillor Nixon. No further comments. Councillor Kerr. Councillor Sears.
Thank you. Just a question, Your Worship. I'm interested to understand, do we or can we charge for Lagoima requests and what the process is around that, or is there no charge?
Charge for a request, usually if they are very large and take a significant amount of time. In those circumstances, we consider that in line with the Ombudsman's advice and guidance, but we always go back to the requester before and let them know what the approximate amount would be before we would proceed with any work that may have cost implications.
Okay. Happy to move from the chair. Have a second to Councillor Sholem. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Now, this will conclude this formal part of the meeting. Oh, you have one more item?
Yeah, meeting schedule.
Meeting schedule.
Item 12.
Thank you. So, Councillor Keith, meeting schedule, seconded by...
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Sorry, there's actually an amendment that we'd like to make to the meeting schedule because we've had advice from the AMP Society. They've brought forward their meeting, and so we're asking for our new council meeting instead of the 12th of July to be the 23rd of June. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. That's just the amendment for that. Everyone comfortable with that meeting schedule? Moved by councillor O'Keefe, seconded by councillor Dixon. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. And that concludes the public part of today's meeting. Thank you to our community and public who have joined us today. And I'll move from the chair that we move to PX in the next part of the agenda. And first moved by the Mayor, seconded by councillor Redstone. And just before we do put that motion, I'd like to hear from the officers on those items, why they would be in a public excluded meeting, part of the meeting. Thank you. Mr. Cameron.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Three of the items which I'm on involve council involved in commercial negotiations, and we're also in possession of business information of other organisations, so it's recommended, it's appropriate that they be public excluded at this stage.
Thank you. Councillors have any questions on that reason for those items to be in a PX part, public excluded part of the agenda? No. I put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Now we'll break for afternoon tea. Thank you.